corruption, living conditions, life expectancy, education, happiness. Ranking at the bottom of all of these is Somalia, so it's probably no surprise to hear that Somalia is ranked number 1 on the failed state index. But is all of that actually justified? Some Somalis disagree, but if it is, how did it get this way? When European powers decolonized Somalia, they set the country up for chaos. Britain and Italy merged their two Somali colonies, which already created differences in governance, economy, and military. But if that wasn't enough, although ethnically unified, Somalis have a culture of identifying more with their clan. Despite this, Somalia had a democracy and a hopeful future. That was until Siad Barre. With the help of the Soviet Union, Barre overthrew the government in 1969, plunging the country into a decades-long dictatorship. In 1977, Barre invaded Ethiopia to take the Somali region of Bugden. In reaction, the Soviet Union pulled its aid and support and redirected it toward Ethiopia instead. The US saw this and decided to side with Somalia, thus creating another proxy war of the Cold War. The conflict created new tensions and with poor leadership brought financial decline and socio-economic hardship. Discontent was rife, especially among the Isak clan. A general feeling of neglect and acts like the resettling of Ogaden refugees in the north were seen as Barre attempting to subvert their interests. Uprisings led by the Isaks eventually forced Barre to flee the country in 1991. This power vacuum spawned a humanitarian nightmare, chaos, and a civil war which, spoiler alert, is still going on to this day because this vacuum has never gotten filled. But how? Multiple clans tried to seize power from the government, all using control over the food as leverage. Massive famines ensued, killing over 300,000 Somalis and putting 1.5 million Somalis into inhumane conditions in just the first 2 years. At the same time, Somaliland broke away, and a few years later, Puntland would follow suit. The international community felt it necessary to intervene. However, many clan leaders opposed this, leading to guerrilla warfare. In short, the US and UN's missions to stabilize the country failed due to incompetence, and they pulled out a couple years later. Neighboring countries tried to help, like in 2006 when Ethiopia occupied the country in order to fight back against the rising Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab. It lost control of the capital in 2011, however, it still has a significant presence in rural areas. Many have resorted to piracy as the lack of an economy and employment continues to be an issue. This disrupts international trade, and so the international community is trying to combat this. The problem is they're more focused on the symptom rather than the actual problem of Somalia's instability. Decades of attempts to establish a central Somali government have failed because of all of what I've been talking about. Different clans and militant groups fighting for power, a basically non-existent economy causing a lack of infrastructure and services, a high dependence on international aid, a lack of recognition historically, and douse in a bit of corruption to get a recipe for a government that just can't do much of anything. So what does this result in? Constant large-scale fighting, disease outbreaks are common, along with child mortality and mortality in general. Education and healthcare is difficult to access. 4.3 million Somalis are food insecure. Malnutrition in children is common. More than half of the population suffer with water insecurity. 4.6 million need shelter. 80% of households lack a hand-washing facility. Almost 4 million Somalis are displaced. And at least 6.9 million, or almost half of Somalia's population, require immediate life-saving humanitarian and protection assistance. I could list more statistics, but I think you get the point. Somalia is in a bad spot right now. But there might be hope. The federal government of Somalia controls the capital of Mogadishu and some other urban areas. Somalia, its neighbors, and the UN are all trying to help fight Al-Shabaab, provide humanitarian aid, and reform the government. I don't know what Somalia's future holds, but I hope it's bright, because no one deserves living in conditions like this.